In this video we paint some happy little miniatures. Hello, this is Craig from bizbox.co.uk. So in this video we're going to look at some different ways of doing wet blending on your miniatures. One of the techniques I am calling the Bob Ross technique. Anyone who paints on canvas would be familiar with sort of painting this way, but I haven't really seen anyone do it on miniatures. And yeah, it probably won't work well on a lot of miniatures, but I thought I'd try it out anyway and share it with you guys. So before we begin, I just want to shout out to a few of our patrons, because I realised we haven't shouted out to any for quite a while. So I just want to say a big thank you to Rich, Franco, David, Ethan, Wayne and Lakeland for all your support on our Patreon. And this video is one of the early videos that goes up on Patreon, so this video goes out about a week before it goes up on YouTube, and we tend to do 2 or 3 videos each month on our Patreon that goes up early. And we also have giveaways, and this month we are giving away a brand new Great Unclean One miniature to one lucky Patreon. So anyone in the $10 pledge or higher who is on our Patreon during February, so you're either already on there or you join up during February, and will be in with a chance to win. So if you want to be in with a chance to win a Great Unclean One, all you got to do is check out our Patreon, and the link is down below. So without further ado, let's get into some wet blending. Okay, so for our first example, we have this Spirit Host miniature, and it's been undercoated in Corax white spray paint. So we're going to take some white scar, and we're going to take some Retarder medium from Vallejo. Any Retarder medium will do. So this is the so-called Bob Ross method. If you've watched any of his videos or familiar with canvas paintings, sometimes they will cover the canvas in a liquid white and basically just then blend on top of the canvas. Then, so having the white, as you brush across the surface of the canvas, your colour will go from dark to light and giving you some nice natural blends. And that's what we're going to try and do here with the Spirit Host. So for this example, I'm just doing the sort of head of this one. So I'm just covering it all with a layer of the white and the retarder. Now, do use a little bit of water if you're using the Vallejo retarder, as it's quite thick, and you really don't want to be obscuring details with too thick paint here. So next we're going to take some Stegadon Scale Green, and you want to start applying this where you want the colour to be darker, and then drag it out towards the lighter areas. Now when it comes to a 3D miniature like this, you sort of want to start in the middle as well, and work your way around, sort of, say you're going around clockwise or anti-clockwise, don't just go all the way out in the middle and then start feathering it out from another edge. You really just want to work sort of in a radial pattern, so we say. That way you'll get a nice sort of even colour going outwards. Of course, it's entirely up to you how you want the effect to be, but for me, I just want this to be lighter as it comes away from the face. And as you can see, as we're applying it, this Stegadon Scale Green is getting lighter as we get more towards the tips of his head and arms and stuff. So I don't know what these bits coming off the back of his head are called. As you can see, that's now giving us a nice blend from the front to the back. Of course, on larger areas, the blend will go even lighter the further out you get away from the centre, of course. And if you want to darken up, you can just add a little bit more on your brush towards the centre, and that'll make that area darker. And of course, if you want to make it lighter, you can go over with some white scar in the other areas. So that is the first way of getting a really simple blend. We're going to do the same thing now, but we're going to do it in reverse. And here I'm just showing you that I've just done exactly the same on the rest of this Spirit Host as well. So, as I said, we're doing it in reverse, so we're going to start with the Stegadon Scale Green at this time, and some Retarder Medium. Again, mix it up with a little bit of water to get a nice consistency. And we're going to apply this all over this Spirit Host. So again, just same as before, just covering it all. Try and get as good a coverage as you can get. This is slightly thicker than I then I would usually use for a base coat, but it still needs to be thinned out. And when you go over white, you do get a good coverage, especially with these base paints. And you see my brush is a bit crappy here, but it does the job just for this example. So yeah, we're going to do the opposite, so we're going to take white scar. And again, you sort of work it out, but I'm sort of not going straight towards the middle. I want the middle to stay the Stegadon scale green. So again, we are working from the inside out. And I'm just working it around. Now, I'm doing it this way. I don't think the blend is as sort of strong as what we had before. It's not as light in the lighter areas, but you can, of course, add some more white scar to make it even lighter. And here I have a spirit host. After I've given them a little bit of a wash and a dry brush, you can see we have a nice sort of dark to light blend going on there. It's quite subtle, but it really gives a nice effect. And yeah, I'm really happy with the result on these. I painted the third spirit host in exactly the same way as the first one. Here is another miniature that I've also tried this technique on. So his tentacles were all given a white base coat, and then I painted purple, I think it was Xeris purple, on one tentacle, and then I used one of the pink colours, pink horror I believe, for the other tentacle, and I used a little bit of flesh to shade, to cover up the, and sort of blend there. So our next example, we have an axe here for a Custodes, and we're going to take some Hexed Lichen from Vallejo, and we're just painting this on as normal. So we are just given a base coat here of this colour. So this is a slightly different way of blending, and this is the way that I would typically wet blend. So first off, you just start by painting either your mid-tone or one of your darker or lighter colours. And once that's dry, we can come back in with the Hexed Lichen, and we're going to add some Retarder Medium to it this time. The reason we're doing this on top of a base coat is just so when you start spreading it around, that won't leave any of the undercoat showing through. So we paint it all over the axe, and then once you've done that, you can then come in with another colour. So I'm using Techless Blue. You could use white or any colour really, but I want Techless Blue as that'll give us a very subtle transition. So we're only going to be going from like a light, slightly lighter purple to a darker purple. And as you can see, as I put it on here, it gives us a nice lilac. So with this technique, you can do two brush blending here, where you use one brush for one colour and one for the other, or you can just wash your brush out and switch between the colours. Either way, you want to sort of build up with one colour, and then if you feel the transition just between two of them isn't quite as smooth as you'd like, you can come back in with the other colour and then blend over. And you basically just work backwards and forwards until you get a nice blend that you're happy with. And for the next few seconds of this video, that's exactly what I will be doing. So yeah, two brushes are recommended for doing this, and it's often called two brush blending. But I am just using one and just washing it out in between, but using two brushes will just make it slightly quicker for you, slightly easier. As you can see, I'm just working backwards and forwards. Again, my brush is not behaving himself. I think I'm using GW brushes in this video, and I find they just never keep the tip for me as well as my other brushes. And this is sort of the blend that I want, so sort of a light lilac one end and then going into the purple on the other. And that just gives us a really nice effect on this axe blade. And of course you can do this to anything you wish with any colours you so choose. And you see it's giving us a nice subtle transition from the dark to light. And I've been doing this on all of my Custodes so far. So next we're going to do his cloak, and we're going to do some simple wet blending on that, and we're going to take some Incubi Darkness, and again we're just going to give this a all over base coat. So with that base coat dry, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take some Stegadon Scale Green and some Retarder Medium, and we're going to apply this all over the cloak. So this example we're going to do slightly different to how we did the axe. This Stegadon Scale Green is actually going to be our mid-tone rather than our darker colour, and we're just going to take some Abaddon Black for the recesses, and we're going to mix this into the recesses to give us a simple little shade. So start in the deepest of the recesses and just drag it out. So that'll make sure it's darker in the deepest recesses and slightly lighter in the other areas. And this is a very simple way of adding shade to your cloaks, robes and anything similar. So I'm just working around all these little folds and stuff. So next we'll do our highlights with some Thunderhawk Blue. Now we're going to do this much in the same way, but this time we're applying it to the raised areas. So here I'm still using the larger brush. I probably should have switched to a thinner one. And just hitting these raised areas like so for our highlights. And here I do switch to a smaller brush, and I'm going to do the back. And this is just a very simple way of highlighting. You could of course take your time and do a bit more blending outwards, but as these are quite small robes and they're sort of very tight folds, you sort of have the highlight sort of right on the top. If you have sort of wider robes, you can sort of fan this out a little bit, and that'll give you a nice little blend. And here we have the finished robes. Very simple, but just give a nice simple effect. If you're just going for tabletop standard, then it certainly looks alright. And as I said, you can fan these out a bit more, blend more with the base colour, and that'll give you much better transition between the lighter and the darker areas. So there's just a few simple techniques that you can do some wet blending on your miniatures. If you're new to the wet blending and you haven't tried it before, then definitely don't be afraid to give it a go. This is certainly a good beginning technique for trying to get some smooth transitions on your miniatures. And the Retarder Medium is very handy, and I do highly recommend it, especially the Vallejo one. Just be mindful that you do have to thin it out a little bit because it is quite thick. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, whether these techniques are useful or not. And if you have, then please do give it a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, and the link to that is down below. As I'm sure you guys know by now, and of course there is that little bell icon you can click if you want to be notified whenever we have a new video going live. You can also find all our social links all down there as well. Our Patreon, as I mentioned earlier, it's all down there. So feel free to check anything out. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.